The quiet stretches too long. The air hangs heavy. And somewhere in the dark, a diesel engine is still idling. With no one behind the wheel, tonight's theme is rural America trucker. Horror, the kind of stories that come from the loneliest highways. Told by drivers who swore they'd never speak of what they saw. These aren't campfire tales. These are the miles between radio static and sleep, where the world starts to feel thin, and the road seems to remember your name. Be warned, these stories don't fade when the video ends. You might still hear the echoes hours later when everything else is silent. Most people listen to Dark Bites and move on. They forget to subscribe, to leave a trace that they were ever here. So before we start, tell me, what time is it where you are? And where are you watching from tonight? Drop it in the comments. I like knowing who's still awake this late. Let's begin. The rain was coming down so hard that the wipers barely made a difference. I could feel the truck fighting the wind, the trailer tugging behind me like it wanted to pull me off the road. Midnight in rural Virginia, empty highway, no lights but mine. My eyelids were heavy, and the hum of the tires had that hypnotic rhythm that puts you right on the edge of sleep. Then I saw her. At first, I thought it was a road sign, a white shape at the edge of my headlights. But it moved. It stepped forward. A woman, standing on the shoulder of Route 19, soaked to the bone. Her hair was plastered to her face, one arm lifted like she was hailing me down. Something in my gut said, don't stop. But my foot was already on the brake. The trailer groaned, hissed. The red glow of my taillights stretched across the wet pavement. She didn't move, just stood there, head tilted slightly to the side, like she was trying to make out my face through the rain. I leaned over and cracked the passenger door open. You all right, ma'am? I shouted over the storm. She nodded once, stiffly. Her clothes looked wrong. A long pale dress that clung to her skin like tissue paper. Not the kind of thing anyone wears out here, not this time of year. Where you headed? I called again. She said something, but I couldn't hear. The wind carried her voice away. I motioned for her to come closer. She climbed up, slow and careful, like she'd done it before. Her shoes squished against the step rail. Up close, she looked younger than I expected, maybe mid-20s. Pretty, but pale in that sickly, washed-out way. Her lips trembled. She kept her hands folded tight in her lap. I handed her a towel from behind my seat. You're soaked. Thank you, she said softly. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the noise of the rain. We drove for a while in silence. The storm filled the space between us. I couldn't shake that weird, quiet feeling. Usually when I pick up hitchhikers, rare as it is, there's small talk. Name, where you headed, that kind of thing. But she just stared out the windshield, watching the rain smear against the glass. After a few miles, I said, You from around here? She shook her head slowly. I'm trying to get home, she said. Where's home? Her answer came out after a long pause. Saltville. That was odd. Saltville was at least an hour north. You've been out walking in this? She didn't answer. Just pressed the towel against her face and mumbled something that sounded like, I had to find him. Find who? No answer. The CB crackled, and I turned it down. Something about her presence made the cab feel smaller, the air heavier. The smell of wet earth filled the space, like she'd brought the storm in with her. You hungry? Got some jerky in the glove box. She shook her head. He'll be hungry, she said softly. Who's he? My boy. That made me freeze for a second. I looked over at her, but she was still facing the windshield, eyes glassy and distant. You're out here looking for your son? I asked carefully. She nodded. He was in the car with me. We were driving home, and we hit something. I tried to carry him, but I lost the road. I think he's still out there. I gripped the wheel tighter. My stomach sank. You were in an accident when? She turned to look at me for the first time, and I swear, her eyes looked gray, like the reflection of wet asphalt. I don't know, she said. The CB hissed again. A man's voice broke through the static. Anyone out on Route 19 tonight? We got a report of a single vehicle accident near mile marker 42. If you're close, keep an eye out. I glanced at my GPS. We were only a few miles from there. The woman's head turned sharply toward the radio. That's me, she whispered. He's calling for me. Something about the way she said it made the hairs on my neck stand up. I wanted to ask what she meant, but she was already reaching for the door handle. Whoa, hey, wait! The door flew open. Cold rain blasted in, soaking my leg. She jumped down before I could stop her, bare feet splashing in the puddles. Ma'am! I shouted, slamming the brakes and pulling onto the shoulder. The trailer rocked behind me. My headlights cut through sheets of rain, but she was already gone, swallowed by the darkness beyond the beam. I threw on my reflective vest and grabbed my flashlight. Damn it, I muttered, stepping out into the storm. The wind hit like a wall. The beam of my flashlight shook in my hands as I followed the muddy footprints down the embankment. There was no sign of her. Just the rain, the hiss of distant tires, and the echo of my own breath in my ears. Then I saw it, down by the ditch, where the water was pooling. A car Dottet was upside down, half buried in mud. The back end was crushed, the roof caved in. My stomach twisted as I sloshed closer. The license plate was coated in grime, but I could still make out the letters, Virginia. I cupped my hands to the broken window and peered inside. No one. The seatbelts dangled loose. The interior was soaked, glass scattered everywhere. There was a small teddy bear wedged under the passenger seat, soaked through, one eye missing. Ma'am? I shouted again. My voice cracked in the wind. You hear? Nothing. I circled the car once more. That's when I saw footprints, small ones, leading away from the wreck. Bare feet. The prints were shallow, washed out by the rain, but they went up toward the road, and then vanished. I must have stood there for a full minute, just listening to the rain pound against the metal. Then I climbed back up the embankment and radioed in. Dispatch, this is Hauler 19. I think I found that wreck by mile marker 42. Cars flipped, no sign of the driver. Static. Then a faint reply. Copy that 19, units are on the way. Sit tight. I sat in my cab, soaked and shivering, trying to shake the feeling that I'd just hallucinated everything. The passenger seat was still wet. The towel she'd used was draped across the dash, dripping, except the towel was dry. Perfectly dry. Like it hadn't been touched. I reached out, hesitant, and picked it up. Cold, yes, but not wet. The seat itself was dry too. Even the floor mats. For a few seconds I just sat there staring at the empty seat. Rain streaking down the windshield. Then, faintly, from the sleeper behind me, I heard a sound. A sniffle, like a child trying not to cry. My blood turned ice. Slowly I turned around. The sleeper curtain was half open, the space dark. Hello? I said quietly. Anyone back there? No response. I pulled the curtain aside, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The space was empty, but on the mattress right in the middle was a small muddy handprint. I froze. My throat felt dry, my body cold. The sound came again, softer this time, almost like a breath. Mommy? I jumped back, hit my elbow on the door. My flashlight clattered to the floor. When I looked again, the handprint was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the cab with the headlights on until the sun came up, the rain easing to a mist. Around 7 a.m., 2 state troopers pulled up behind me. One of them, a heavy-set guy with tired eyes, walked to my window. You the one who called in the wreck? He asked. Yeah, I said, rubbing my face. A woman flagged me down last night. Said she'd been in an accident. She jumped out near here." He frowned. "A woman?" "Yeah, long dress, dark hair. Said her boy was missing." He exchanged a glance with the other officer. "Sir, that car's been down there for over 15 years. I laughed because that didn't make sense. "What?" He nodded slowly. "Couple died there back in 2009. She was driving home in the storm, lost control. They never found the kid's body." The words hit me like a physical blow. 15 years, she was alive, I said. I talked to her. The trooper's eyes softened a little. "You should get some rest, son. Roads'll mess with your head after a night like that." They left me standing by the cab while they checked the wreck. I couldn't stop staring at the road, at the wet pavement where I'd first seen her standing. The rain had washed everything clean, no footprints, no signs of her at all. I told myself I imagined it, that I'd nodded off, dreamed it. But when I climbed back into the truck, something caught my eye. The teddy bear dot, it was sitting on the passenger seat, clean and dry. Both eyes intact, and it smelled faintly of rain. I didn't drive for almost a week after that night. Every time I thought about the road, the smell of wet pavement, the hiss of the wipers, my stomach twisted up. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still sitting in that passenger seat, quiet and watching. But money doesn't wait, and neither do the roots. So the next Friday, I took a load north through Virginia again. I told myself it was just work, nothing more. I'd stay off Route 19, take the long way, stick to the interstate. Except, that night, every detour I took somehow led me back to it. Route 19. I didn't even realize until I saw the sign, half covered in vines, shining in my headlights. I laughed under my breath. Maybe I was just drawn to it. Maybe part of me wanted answers. The highway was empty, same as before. Just me, the storm clouds moving low, and the smell of distant rain. The air inside the cab felt heavier the closer I got to mile marker 42. My hands were sweating on the wheel. When I reached it, I slowed down. The crash site was still there, now marked with yellow tape fluttering weakly in the wind. 2 orange cones, a muddy ditch. Nothing else, but my headlights caught something near the guardrail, something small and white. I pulled over. My heart pounded as I stepped out, flashlight in hand. It was a ribbon. A child's hair ribbon, tied around a chunk of twisted metal. The rain had soaked it, but it looked fresh, new. "Hello?" I called out, feeling ridiculous. The night swallowed my voice. The wind shifted, bringing with it a faint sound, like someone crying. It was soft, carried from the woods just beyond the road. I hesitated. I knew better than to wander off the shoulder at night, especially out here. But something about that sound. It wasn't just crying. It was calling. A child, scared, lost. I climbed the guardrail and followed the noise down the muddy slope. My boots sank into the earth, cold water seeping through my socks. The flashlight beam wobbled as branches scraped against my jacket. The crying stopped. "Hey," I said louder now, scanning the trees. "It's okay, I can help you." Silence. Then, a whisper. "She's still looking for me." I froze. The voice was right behind me, but when I spun around, there was nothing there. Just darkness and rain. My breath came out shaky, white in the cold air. "Who's there?" I shouted. No answer. When I turned back toward the road, my flashlight flickered. For a second, I saw her, standing between the trees, that same pale dress clinging to her, hair hanging wet across her face. Only this time, she wasn't looking at me. She was staring into the woods, eyes wide, whispering, "I'm sorry, baby. Mommy's sorry." I wanted to move, to call out, to do something, but my legs wouldn't respond. The light blinked again, and she was gone. Something brushed my ankle. I jerked the flashlight down. A small handprint, clear in the mud, pressed right next to my boot, and then another, just ahead of it. Small, like a child crawling forward on hands and knees, I backed away, tripping over a root. My heart slammed against my ribs as I stumbled up the embankment. When I reached the truck, I locked the doors, shaking so hard I could barely fit the key into the ignition. The radio hissed. I hadn't touched it. Then through the static, a child's voice. "Don't leave her." I slammed my fist against the dashboard. "Who are you?" I yelled at the radio like an idiot. But it just crackled once more, then silence. The storm broke open after that. Sheets of rain, hard enough to drown out the engine. I drove without thinking, headlights cutting through the flood. Every mile away from that place felt like pulling teeth. When I finally stopped at a truck stop near Abingdon, I sat there for a long time before going inside. The lights inside the diner were harsh, too bright. The smell of burnt coffee and frying oil filled the air. A few other drivers sat scattered around, faces lit by their phones. I found a booth in the corner. The waitress poured me a cup before I even asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost, hon," she said with a half smile. I didn't answer. My hands were still trembling. Then I noticed the wall behind her, a corkboard filled with missing persons flyers. Old ones, faded photos. And right in the middle was her. The woman from Route 19. The photo showed her smiling, holding a little boy on her hip. Margaret Hollins, age 27. Missing June 14th, 2009. Last seen traveling north on Route 19 with her son. Daniel. I felt my chest tighten. The waitress followed my gaze. "That one?" she said quietly. "Terrible story. They never found her or the boy. Rain washed out the whole hillside that year. Folks say you can still hear him some nights." I swallowed hard. "You ever see anything out there?" She tilted her head. "You mean her?" I didn't answer. The waitress's face softened. "You ain't the first trucker to come through here asking that. Most say she looks lost. Some say she's looking for her boy. But one fella swore the kid shows up first. Stands by the road, thumb out like he's hitching. Said if you stop, he disappears. And when you look up, she's sitting right beside you." My skin crawled. "Where's the boy's picture?" I asked. The waitress pointed. I leaned in. The kid had short blonde hair and big brown eyes. His shirt had cartoon trucks printed on it. I froze. Because I'd seen that same pattern before on the fabric tucked in my sleeper. I didn't finish the coffee. I went back to my rig and pulled open the curtain. The mattress was empty, but the blanket was there, and underneath it, half hidden, was a tiny t-shirt. Faded, muddy, with little trucks on it. I sat down hard. My heart thudded so loud I could hear it over the rain outside. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I opened my eyes again, it was morning. The sunlight looked strange, pale and thin through the fogged windows. I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't move. Locked tight. I hadn't locked it. Then, in the reflection of the glass, I saw her. Sitting in the passenger seat, her hands were folded in her lap. Her face looked softer now, calm almost. "You brought him back," she whispered. "Thank you." I wanted to speak, to tell her I didn't do anything, but my throat wouldn't work. She looked toward the sleeper. "He's resting now. I can take him home." I turned slowly. The sleeper curtain was drawn shut. The air back there shimmered like heat above asphalt. Then it went still. When I looked back to the passenger seat, she was gone. The lock clicked open by itself. I got out of that truck so fast I left the engine running. The fog was thick, curling across the asphalt like smoke. I walked to the diner just to breathe air that wasn't inside that cab. When I came back 15 minutes later, the truck was empty. The blanket, the shirt, even the teddy bear, gone. The seat was dry. The smell of rain had faded. Only one thing was left. Behind, a muddy handprint on the inside of the windshield, small, child-sized, right above where she'd been. Sitting. It's been 3 months since then. I drive different routes now, mostly daylight runs. I tell myself I imagined it, that it was just fatigue and bad weather. But I can't explain the things that followed me. The radio still cuts to static sometimes, always on Route 19. Sometimes I hear her voice in it. Soft and faint, we're home now. But last week, I got a call from another driver friend, Tim. He sounded shaken. Said he saw a woman standing by the shoulder near Saltville, long dress, soaking wet. Said she looked right at him as he passed, and he swore she smiled. Then he said something that made blood run cold. She was holding a kid's hand. I told him not to stop, to just keep driving. He laughed it off, said it was probably someone waiting out the rain. But I know better. There's something about that stretch of road, something that doesn't let go, sometimes. When the night's quiet and the wipers are keeping rhythm, I glance at the passenger mirror and swear I see a shape there. A figure standing just beyond the edge of the beam. Always the same. Always waiting. And every time I pass mile marker 42, the radio whispers again. 2 words, clear as anything. Thank you. I should have known something was wrong the second I pulled into that rest stop. The lights were too bright, too clean. Out here in the middle of nowhere, on some forgotten stretch of Route 33, everything's supposed to look a little run down. Flickering bulbs, cracked pavement, a soda machine humming just a little too loud. But this place looked new, like it had just opened yesterday, and yet, there were no other cars. Just me, my rig, and silence. It was close to 3 a.m., the hour when your brain starts to slip and your headlights feel like they're the only things keeping the dark from swallowing you whole. I'd been hauling refrigerated produce from Georgia up to Ohio, too long without sleep. I figured I'd stop, stretch my legs, grab a coffee, maybe nap an hour before finishing the run. The sign said, Pine Hollow Rest Stop. Never heard of it. I parked near the main building. The windows glowed soft yellow, and I could see the outline of vending machines inside. The smell of rain lingered in the air, but the pavement was bone dry. That detail didn't register right away. It just tickled the back of my mind as I killed the engine and stepped out. The quiet hit me. Not the usual quiet you get out on the highway either. This was dead air, no crickets, no wind, no hum from the power lines. Just a heavy, muffled kind of stillness. The fluorescent light above the restroom door buzzed once, then stopped. Inside, everything looked too clean. Not just wiped down, sterile. White tiles gleamed like a hospital floor. The air smelled faintly of bleach and something else I couldn't place. Cold metal, like blood on steel. I splashed water on my face, trying to wake myself up. The mirror fogged a little from the temperature difference, and when I wiped it with my sleeve, my own reflection looked off. My face was pale, eyes darker than they should have been. And behind me, for just a second, I thought I saw movement. A dark shape passing the doorway. I spun around. No one there. Just the echo of water dripping somewhere in the corner. I laughed quietly. You're just tired, I told myself. When I stepped back outside, the world felt different, quieter, still air pressing against my ears like I was underwater. Looked toward my truck and froze. There were 2 of them, parked side by side, identical, same color, same company logo, same trailer number. Mine was on the right, the one on the left. I had no idea where it came from. I walked closer, squinting under the lights. Everything matched, even the small scratch on the rear fender, the one from last month. The only difference was that the left truck's engine was running. I could hear it idling softly, lights dim. I leaned closer to the window. The cab was empty. No driver. My pulse picked up. Hello? I called out, voice echoing off the concrete. No answer. I took a step closer and froze again. Because something about the windshield reflection wasn't right. I was standing there, flashlight in hand, staring into the cab. But the reflection showed someone sitting in the driver's seat, and it wasn't me. The figure looked identical to me, same jacket, same hat. But it was just sitting there, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. No movement, no blink. I stumbled back so fast I nearly tripped over the curb. The reflection vanished. The cab was empty again. That was enough for me. I ran back to my truck, climbed in, and started the engine. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned out the rumble of the diesel. I threw it in gear and rolled toward the exit. Only there wasn't one. The sign that had said "Exit Gives" was gone. I drove a slow circle around the lot. Nothing but trees, the same rest stop building, and 2 trucks. Mine and the other one. I drove around again. The road curved and dumped me right back in front of the building. I tried again. Same result. Every time I tried to leave, the road bent, twisted, and folded right back into itself. Like I was circling the same half mile of asphalt forever. My hands were shaking now. I got back out, trying to convince myself there had to be another way. The air smelled thicker now, damp like moss and dirt. The lights above the building flickered once, then steadied. My reflection in the glass doors looked warped, stretched slightly, like the glass was breathing. "Hello?" I called again, louder this time. "Anybody working here?" Silence. I went inside. The vending machines hummed quietly. The air was too still. The clock above the counter read 3:08 a.m. I watched it for a moment. The second hand didn't move. I checked my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi. The battery icon was at 32%, but the screen froze every time I tried to open Maps. Something moved behind the counter. Just a flicker. A shadow ducking out of sight. My breath hitched. I took one step closer. "Hey," I said, voice shaking. If this is some kind of a sound cut me off. The unmistakable click of my truck's air brakes releasing outside. I ran back to the door, but before I could reach it, headlights flared through the glass. My own truck was backing up slowly, trailer lights blinking red in the fog. Except I hadn't left it in reverse, and I was holding the keys. The engine revved. The sound filled the air, too loud, like it was coming from every direction at once. I pressed my hands to my ears, and then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The headlights went dark. I didn't move for what felt like minutes. Then I forced myself to step outside. Both trucks were parked again, silent. Identical. But now the one on the left, the copy, had its door open. The interior light glowed faintly yellow. There was something sitting in the driver's seat. A figure, still as stone. My flashlight trembled as I raised it. The beam caught the face, and my stomach dropped. It was me. But pale, lips slightly blue, eyes wide open and glassy. My reflection, dead. I stumbled backward, tripping over my own boots. The light flickered, and the figure vanished. The seat was empty again. I backed up until I hit the building wall, gasping for air. My mind was spinning. I wanted to leave, to run, to wake up. Then, through the glass door behind me, I saw something move inside. The clock above the counter, its second hand started ticking again. 3:08, 3:09, 3:10. The air felt heavy, pressing against my chest. I turned back to the lot. Both trucks were gone. Completely gone. Just the empty pavement under the buzzing lights. And then, faintly, behind me, a voice. Low, calm, just a whisper in my ear. "You've already been here." I don't remember deciding to run, but my legs were moving before my brain caught up. I tore around the side of the building, gravel crunching under my boots, breath slicing through the cold air. The whisper still rang in my ears. "You've already been here." The place looked different now. The clean lights had dimmed to a sickly yellow. The windows, once clear, were fogged from the inside, streaked with handprints. The air smelled like wet metal and diesel fumes. I stopped beside the restroom door, trying to steady my breathing. The world was too quiet again, that heavy vacuumed silence pressing in on my eardrums. Even the hum of the lights had died. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Crunch. 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 Coming from the parking lot. I leaned around the corner. There was a figure walking between the parking spaces. He wore my jacket. My hat. His movements were stiff, mechanical, like someone playing at being human. He stopped by one of the empty spots, turned his head, and looked straight at me. I ducked back behind the wall, heart hammering. My breath fogged in front of me. I could feel it, that instinct you get when something's looking at you, close enough to touch. When I peeked again, the lot was empty. But now my truck was back. Only, it wasn't parked the way I'd left it. It was angled toward the exit that shouldn't have existed, and the driver's side door was open. I should have run the other way. Instead, I walked toward it. Each step felt wrong, like the air was thicker near the truck. The light from the building barely reached this far. The shadows rippled like water. I climbed the side rail and looked inside. The cab smelled like rain and gasoline. My logbook sat open on the dash, the same page as before, except now the handwriting wasn't mine. Big, jagged letters carved into the paper again and again. You arrive, you leave. You arrive, you leave. My hand started shaking. I slammed the book shut and turned the key in the ignition. The engine rumbled alive, steady. For a moment, relief washed through me. Maybe I could drive straight through, push past whatever this was. I shifted into gear and rolled toward the exit sign. The road curved into darkness ahead. My headlights cut a pale ribbon through the fog. I kept my eyes on the painted lines, counting the seconds. 30 seconds. A minute. 2. Then the fog thinned, and I saw the rest stop ahead of me. Same building. Same flickering lights. Same sign. Pine Hollow Rest Stop. I slammed the brakes. Gravel sprayed across the pavement. No, I said out loud. No, no, no. The clock on the dash read 3:10 a.m. again. Exactly the same. I threw the door open and stumbled out, shouting into the night. What do you want from me? My voice bounced off the trees and came back wrong, quieter, slower, like an echo that didn't belong to me. Then behind me, I heard the air brakes hiss. Another engine started up. I turned. There were 2 trucks again. Both running now, headlights blazing. The sound filled the lot. A low vibrating roar that rattled the windows of the rest stop. One truck's headlights flashed twice. The other flashed back. I covered my ears, but the sound kept getting louder, a wall of noise and light. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. Darkness. Silence. Both trucks gone. Only the building remained, dimly glowing from within. Something about that light pulled at me, like gravity. Inside. The clock still read 3:10. The vending machines hummed quietly again. The air was warmer now, almost comfortable. Too comfortable. There was a man sitting on one of the benches near the window. I hadn't noticed him before. Gray hair, old-fashioned clothes, hands folded over a small paper cup. You look lost, he said without looking up. Yeah, I breathed. I can't. Get out. The road keeps looping. He nodded, still staring at his cup. Most of us can't. Most of us? He finally looked at me. His eyes were cloudy, milky white. This place is a turnoff for people who miss the exit. I didn't miss anything, I said, shaking my head. I just stopped for coffee. He smiled faintly. That's what I told myself. 40 years ago. The words hung between us like smoke. I backed away. No, you're not real. You're just the fluorescent lights above us flickered, then died. The man was gone. The only sound was the slow tick. Tick, tick of the clock. It had started moving again. 3:11. I ran outside. The lot was empty. No trucks. No cars. Not even tire marks. Just black pavement stretching into fog. I stood there shaking, trying to think, to breathe. Then I heard it again, the whisper. Closer this time. Inside my own head, "You've already been here." I clutched my ears. "Stop," I screamed. "Let me out." The air shifted, and for a second I felt weightless, like the ground had dropped away. The lights flared so bright, I had to close my eyes. When I opened them again, it was morning. Blue sky, birds, sunlight glitting off my windshield. I was parked at a rest stop. Same layout, but everything looked normal. The pavement wet from last night's rain, trees rustling in a light breeze. A family stood near the vending machines, laughing, stretching their legs. A real living sound. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost gave out. I checked my phone. Signal bars. Time, 7:42 a.m. somehow. I'd lost more than 4 hours. I climbed back into the cab and sat there, staring at the steering wheel. My logbook was back to normal. No strange writing. Just my notes from the previous day. Maybe I'd dreamed the whole thing. Exhaustion, dehydration, something. Then I glanced in the side mirror. Across the lot, parked between two SUVs, was a truck that looked exactly like mine. Same color, same logo. Only difference, its trailer door was slightly open, swaying in the wind. A man stepped out from the driver's side. He wore my jacket. He looked up, straight toward my cab, and smiled. And just like that, the sunlight dimmed. The birds went silent. The family near the vending machines froze in place, mid-motion, like statues. Even the breeze stopped. The man in my jacket lifted his hand and pointed at me. Then he mouthed something through the silence. "Your turn." The next thing I remember is the sound of my own heartbeat. I don't know how long I sat there. When I blinked, the lot was empty again. Just one truck, mine, and the sound of the highway in the distance. I drove away without looking back. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've tried to retrace the route on every map app I own. There's no Pine Hollow rest stop listed anywhere along Route 33, not in state records. Not in trucker GPS databases, nothing. But last night, around 3 a.m., I stopped at a different rest area in Kentucky. Walked into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and looked up at the mirror. Behind me, reflected in the stall door. Someone had scratched words into the paint. "You arrive, you leave. You arrive, you leave." Carved deeper, fresh, was my own name. The first time I stopped at mile marker 313, I didn't know what the hell the place was. It was just a stretch of highway cutting through the mountains, nothing but fog, trees, and asphalt that looked a century old. I only pulled over because my trailer tire was shredding itself to pieces, and I couldn't risk losing it on a curve. I remember the clock on the dash. 2:47 a.m., that's the kind of hour when the world feels like it's holding its breath. The shoulder was narrow, uneven, with just enough space for the rig. The fog rolled in thick, like gray smoke, swallowing my headlights before they reached 10 feet ahead. I put on my reflective vest, grabbed the flashlight, and stepped out into air that smelled like wet pine and cold dirt. As soon as my boots hit the gravel, I knew something felt off. The sound. It was wrong. Usually out there in the mountains, you hear crickets, wind in the trees, the low hum of distant engines. But here, nothing. Just dead quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. I crouched by the tire, running my hand over the torn rubber. It wasn't a blowout. It looked like something had cut through it. Long, clean slashes all the way around. Not jagged, precise, like someone had taken a box cutter to it. I checked the road behind me. No headlights, no sign of life. The fog clung to everything. That's when I noticed the flowers. At first, I thought it was trash, bundles of color scattered by the guardrail. But when I walked closer, My flashlight picked up the stems. Dozens of small bouquets lined up in a neat, perfect row. Red roses, yellow daisies, plastic ribbons, each one anchored into the dirt. They weren't wilted. They were fresh. Every single one had a laminated tag clipped to it. I bent down and wiped the moisture off one. The tag read, Jason McCreary, -1998 to 2021. The next one said, El Rivas 1992 to 2018. The next, Stephen Hayes, 1975 to 2014. I kept walking. There must have been 50 of them, maybe more, stretching along the curve. Each name was different. Each one had a date that ended somewhere between 2010 and 2024. All truckers. Every name I recognized from accident reports and CB chatter over the years. Guys who'd vanished on routes, rigs found abandoned. No trace of the driver. The flowers rustled once, though there was no wind. Something about that sound made my chest tighten. I turned, half expecting to see someone standing there. Nothing but fog and my own breath. I told myself to move faster, to fix the tire and get the hell out. My hands shook as I worked the jack, every noise magnified in the silence. The wrench echoed off the mountain like gunfire. I kept glancing over my shoulder, feeling eyes on me. Then the radio in my cab crackled. I hadn't left it on. Breaker 19, a voice whispered through the static. Low, gravelly. Familiar somehow. You stuck out at 313. I froze, wrench in hand. I hadn't touched the CB. I stepped closer to the truck door, heart hammering. Who's this? I said into the mic. The voice came again, calm but wrong. Tire trouble, right? Left rear axle? I swallowed. Yeah, how'd you know that? A pause. Then, had the same problem myself, night of the 14th. You remember me? The name on the last flower I'd read flashed in my head. Stephen Hayes, who is this? I whispered. A faint laugh filtered through the static. Don't matter. You should go. They don't like when we stop. The channel went dead. I climbed back into the cab and slammed the door shut. My reflection in the windshield looked pale, eyes wide. My pulse was pounding in my throat. I flipped through the CB channels, all static. No voice. The air inside the cab had gone cold. My breath FOG-ED. Outside. The flowers along the guardrail swayed, all at once. Back and forth, slow and even, like a crowd bowing in rhythm. Then the fog thickened, and I could swear I saw movement between the rows. Shapes. Figures. They stood just beyond the reach of the headlights. Silhouettes moving soundlessly through the mist. Too tall to be people. Their outlines shimmered like heat waves, dissolving and reforming with each blink. The CB crackled again. This time it was a whisper, softer than before. Don't look at them. That was all it said. My hands were trembling on the wheel. I put the truck in gear, tires screeching as I pulled forward. The flowers blurred past on either side, the fog swallowing the road behind me. I didn't stop until I saw another rig's headlights cutting through the opposite lane, a beacon of normal life. My breath came out shaky, uneven. I told myself I was just tired, that the flowers, the voice, the shapes, all of it, were some half-dream cooked up by exhaustion and caffeine. But that night, at the next truck stop, I couldn't sleep. Because when I checked my dashcam footage, I found something waiting for me. It wasn't video. Just a single still frame frozen at 2:47 a.m. It showed me outside the truck, kneeling by the tire. And behind me, standing among the flowers, was a line of people. All wearing reflective vests, all facing the camera, and one of them was me. When I woke up the next morning, the dashcam image was still burned into my head. I tried deleting it. The screen froze every time I hit confirm. The frame still stuck there, me kneeling by the tire, a line of figures behind me, faces blurred by fog and light. By afternoon, I convinced myself it was a glitch. Cameras pick up weird light at night. I'd seen that before. Except I couldn't shake one detail. Every figure in that picture wore a vest with my company logo. We only had 7 trucks on that route. 5 of those drivers were dead. 3 days later, dispatch called. They needed me to run the same line back through the mountains, fresh load, same schedule. I should have said no. I told myself I would. But when I heard the route number, something inside me clicked like a gear finding its place. I wrote it on the log sheet before I even realized what I was doing. Route 19. Junction 313. The drive up felt wrong from the start. The sky was heavy with low clouds, and my GPS glitched so badly that the map froze 3 different times. I didn't even notice how far I'd gone until I saw the marker flash in my headlights. Mile 313. I slowed without meaning to. The shoulder looked exactly the same gravel, same guardrail. The flowers were still there, only now they'd multiplied. The whole bend was packed with them, hundreds of bouquets pressed together like a wall of color against the gray fog. The smell hit first, sweet, wet, and rotten underneath. Flowers aren't supposed to smell like decay. I parked on the shoulder, engine idling low, wipers beating a slow rhythm. The road behind me disappeared into fog within seconds. I told myself I'd just take a quick look, maybe clean up the mess for whoever kept leaving the memorials. But the second I stepped out, the air changed. It felt thicker. Every sound from the truck dulled engine, radio, even the rain on the roof like I'd stepped through a layer of glass. I walked along the guardrail, counting tags again. Same names as before, plus more I didn't recognize. One of them stopped me cold. C. Harper 19892-025. That was me. I read it twice, tracing the letters with my finger. The tag was new, laminated, edges still sharp. The flowers beneath it were fresh. My brain tried to find the logic, some sick prank. Some other driver screwing with me, but my chest tightened until I could barely breathe. That's when the CB radio in the cab crackled to life behind me. Static, then a voice. You came back. I turned toward the truck. The cab light was on, glowing soft yellow through the fog. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. For a moment I thought it really was another prank. Maybe dispatch sent someone. Maybe I wasn't losing it. I ran to the door and yanked it open. Empty. Just my jacket draped over the seat. But the smell inside hit me like a punch, wet dirt and burnt rubber. Like the aftermath of a crash, the radio crackled again. They never leave until they see. See what? I said out loud. My voice shook. The answer came in a whisper that felt like it was right next to my ear. Your place. The windshield fogged from the inside, slowly, letters forming where the condensation built up. Look outside. I didn't want to. Every part of my body screamed not to. But I did. Standing in the fog across the highway were the same figures from the dashcam vests glowing faintly in my headlights. They stood shoulder to shoulder, heads tilted at the same angle. Their outlines flickered like static. One of them stepped forward. I could hear the scrape of boots on asphalt even from here. He raised a hand and pointed straight at me. When he stepped closer into the beam, I saw his face. Mine. Not just similar mine. The same scar on the eyebrow, same stubble, same tired eyes. He looked older though. Like he'd been standing there a long time. My legs gave out. I hit the ground hard. The fog pulsed around me, every breath colder than the last. The radio hissed again. A dozen voices, overlapping whispers stacking on top of each other. He sees. He knows now. Make room. The flowers along the guardrail began to tremble. Petals lifted off, swirling like dust in a gust of wind that I couldn't feel. The stems stayed upright, bare, shaking. I crawled back into the cab, slammed the door, locked it, started the engine. The headlights flicked, dimmed, then steadied. The figures were gone. I threw the truck into gear and floored it. The tires screeched against wet pavement. mud spraying from the shoulder. I didn't care which way I was going. I just needed to move. The GPS lit up for the first time in hours. It read, Route 313 to 2.6 miles to exit. I followed it, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. 2 miles. 1 mile. Half a mile, then the fog thinned, and a sign appeared through the mist. Mile marker 313. The exact same one. I laughed. It sounded wrong, cracked and hollow. The gauge cluster flickered, lights flashing on and off. The CB came alive again, but this time it wasn't a whisper. It was my own voice. Flat tire, left rear axle. The recording from that first night. The exact same words. My head spun. I slammed the radio off, but it didn't matter. The voice kept going, layered, echoing. Don't look at them. You've already been here. He sees. I must have blacked out. I don't remember the crash. I only remember waking up to quiet. The engine was dead. The windshield shattered. Steam curled from the hood. My seatbelt was cutting into my chest. Airbag half deflated beside me. The smell of coolant and blood mixed in the air. Outside, the fog was lighter now, glowing faintly with early morning light. I crawled out through the passenger door. The flowers by the guardrail were still standing, fresh and perfect. Someone had added a new bouquet. Yellow daisies. Plastic ribbon. The tag read, C. Harper, 1989 to 2025. The same one I'd seen earlier. I reached for it, but my hand passed right through. No sensation. No contact. Just cold air. The sound of an engine pulled my attention back to the road. Headlights cutting through the mist. A truck slowing, pulling onto the shoulder. A driver stepped out, wearing a reflective vest. He looked tired, nervous, checking his tire with a flashlight. I recognized his face from the CB chatter. Danny, a rookie who'd started last month. I wanted to shout, to warn him, but no sound came out. My voice was gone. My throat didn't move. He turned. Flashlight sweeping past me, straight through me, and paused at the flowers. He picked up the one with my name on it, frowned, looked around, then his radio crackled. Breaker 19. You stuck out at 313. Danny's head jerked up. Yeah, he said into the mic. Tire trouble. Left rear axle. And just like that, the loop began again. The fog rolled in heavier, hiding the road, swallowing the sound. The flowers trembled like they were breathing. Somewhere, deep in the static, I heard my own voice, distant and small. They don't like when we stop. The light from Danny's flashlight flickered once, then twice. Then everything went still. The first time I heard it, I was somewhere between Kansas City and Amarillo, a stretch of highway so flat it looked like the world had been ironed out. Midnight, light rain, no cars, no chatter on the CB, just static and road noise. Then a voice cut through, soft, crackly, almost polite. Breaker 19. Anyone rollin' eastbound near mile 201? Nothing strange about that, except it came through on channel 23. Nobody used 23, not out here. It was dead air 24/7. I picked up the mic anyway. Copy, 201 eastbound. This is Harlan, in a Freightliner, headed your way. You lost? A pause. Then, Harlan. You still run nights? I froze. Nobody called me by name on the open channels. Not unless they knew me personally. Who's this? I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. Static hissed. Then the voice came back, lower now. You won't remember me. But I remember you. The sound quality was strange, not the usual fuzzy distortion from bad reception. It felt too clear, like the person was whispering just behind my seat. I switched the channel. Back to 19, then 14, then 10. The familiar hum of truckers. Late night chatter, somebody bragging about fuel mileage. Everything normal again. When I went back to 23, it was silent. I told myself it was a prank. Maybe some kid with a scanner. Maybe a bored driver playing games. But when I checked my CB's display, the channel number kept flickering. 23.0, 23.5, 23.9, 24.1, like it couldn't decide where it belonged. I didn't hear it again until 2 nights later. Same route, same hour. 103, Breaker 19. Eastbound Harlan. You awake? That voice again. Calm, dry, almost gentle. My hand tightened around the mic. Listen, whoever this is, you're trespassing on a private frequency. Knock it off. Silence. Then softly, private frequency. Yeah, it was once. My stomach sank. The tone of it, not mocking, just sad. Like someone remembering something they shouldn't. Where are you calling from? I asked, a long pause. Then, mile 303, then parked here a while. You should stop by. I checked my GPS. Mile 303 was nearly 80 miles ahead. Near an old rest stop that'd been closed since 2018. I'd passed it 100 times. Nothing there but boarded up bathrooms and cracked asphalt. Still, I couldn't shake the pull. I told myself I was just going to prove it was a prank. Maybe a driver camping illegally. Maybe a pirate transmitter. When I reached the marker, I slowed down. The fog was thick, low to the ground, reflecting my headlights in sheets of silver. The rest stop came into view, cracked pavement, weeds pushing through the concrete, rusted signs swinging in the wind. I parked along the edge of the lot, engine idling low. All right, I muttered into the mic. You got me here. Where are you? Right behind you. My heart dropped. I whipped my head around. Nothing but darkness. The only light came from my dashboard and the faint glow of the CB screen. Then the radio crackled again. Faint laughter under the static. You never checked your mirrors. Harlan. I grabbed my flashlight and jumped out, boots splashing through puddles. The air smelled like wet metal and something else. Ozone, like after lightning. The lot was empty. No trucks, no cars, no footprints but mine. When I climbed back in, my radio was still on channel 23, but the display now showed something else beneath it. 303.13. No such frequency existed. Kept hearing that voice for weeks after. Not every night, not on the same road, just when I was alone long enough to start thinking too much. Once it came through while I was fueling up in Texas. The hiss of diesel almost masking it. You getting enough rest, Harlan? Another time, just as I was drifting off in a sleeper berth somewhere in Nevada. You keep the door locked now, right? You learned that. Every time, the voice was steady. Familiar, but I couldn't place it. I started keeping the CB unplugged. Didn't matter. The sound still leaked through, faint, like a heartbeat behind the static dot. Then came the night everything broke. Was hauling a late load of engine parts through New Mexico. The sky was black as tar, no moon, no stars. Around 1:30 a.m., the CB flicked on by itself. You still don't remember. I reached for the power switch. It didn't shut off. Mile 303, exit now. No, I said out loud, more to myself than anyone. I'm done with this. You promised you'd stop this time. The tone changed then, not angry, just pleading. Desperate. Please, Harlan. If you drive past again, you'll forget me for good. My hands shook on the wheel. Forget? Forget who? The sign for the old rest stop flashed by on my right. Mile 303. My headlights caught something on the shoulder. A shape, crouched low. For a second, I thought it was a deer. But it didn't move like one. It turned its head toward me, and I saw a human face illuminated by the reflection of my lights, pale. Mouth open like it was about to speak. Then it was gone. The radio screamed static. I pulled to the shoulder without thinking. Slamming the brakes so hard the trailer jolted behind me. The whole rig hissed and settled into silence. My breathing sounded like thunder in the cab. "All right," I muttered, shaking. "I'm here. What do you want?" The CB hissed again. Then the voice came back, cracked and raw. "You never looked at the logbook, did you?" "What logbook?" The glove box door clicked open on its own. Inside, under my registration papers, was a thin, water-stained notebook I didn't recognize. My name written on the cover in black marker, but the handwriting wasn't mine. I flipped it open. The pages were full of coordinates, dates, and single lines written like diary entries. July 3rd. Picked up on 303 again. He says he remembers. July 8th. Static stronger tonight. She's closer. July 12th. Don't drive through the fog. July 14th. If I forget, tell him about the fire. I froze at the last one. Fire? What fire? Then another line, written shakier. July 16th. I see myself standing by the sign again. She's right. I never left. The radio clicked twice. Now you know. My throat was dry. Who are you? You were. Once. The voice faded under the static until I could barely make it out. Don't miss the marker again, Harlan. Not this time. Then silence. Outside, the fog began rolling in, swallowing the highway from both ends. I turned the key. The truck wouldn't start. The dash lights flickered, then went black. And from the mirror, in the faint red glow of my taillights, I saw a figure standing by the marker sign, not moving, not walking closer, just waiting. The fog swallowed everything. The highway, the trees, even the sky. All that remained was the glow from my taillights and the thin red number, still flickering on my CB display. 23.0. I told myself not to look in the mirror again. But my eyes kept drifting there, back to the figure standing by the sign. It wasn't moving. Not until the radio came alive again. Breaker 19, eastbound Harlan. You awake? The same calm tone. The one I'd been hearing for weeks. I lifted the mic with shaking hands. I don't know who you are, but you need to leave me alone. A crackle of static. Then, you said that last time too. The fog pressed against the glass, thick enough to smear under my palm when I touched the window. I could barely see the hood of the truck. Everything beyond it looked like shifting gray water. I turned the key again. The engine coughed once, then died. The battery light flashed red, then went dark. That's when I heard knocking. From outside. 3 slow taps on the passenger door. Then silence. I froze. My chest felt tight, my breath too loud in the cab. The handle rattled once. I shouted, "Get the hell away from my truck." But my voice sounded small, muffled, like the fog was swallowing the sound. Another knock. Closer this time, metallic, deliberate. The CB popped again. You never checked the log after the fire. My pulse jumped. What fire? Static hissed like wind in my ears. Then, faintly, I heard a man's scream buried inside it, cut off mid-breath. Something clicked. The notebook. The entry from July 14th. If I forget, tell him about the fire. My brain dug through old memories, fast and messy truck stops, endless nights, routes I barely remembered. And then one came back, hard and sharp. A delivery outside Tulsa, summer of 2019. A wreck en route 303. A rig overturned and burning in the median. I'd stopped to help, but by the time I got close, the cab was already melting. The name on the manifest later made my blood run cold. Harlan Reed. My name. But I hadn't crashed. I'd kept driving. I'd even told other drivers about it. Poor bastard had the same name as me, I'd said. We all laughed about the coincidence. Only, it wasn't a coincidence. It was this. The CB crackled again. You didn't get out, Harlan. None of us did. My breath stopped. Through the fog, the figure by the sign started walking forward. Slow steps. No sound. The shape of a man, but his clothes hung burned and black. He moved like smoke, each stride flickering in and out of the headlights. You kept driving, thinking you could outrun it. But the road just circles back. "I'm alive," I whispered. "I'm right here." "Then why are you still talking to me?" The cab temperature dropped so fast the windshield frosted from the inside. I could see my breath hanging white in the air. I reached for the door handle, thinking I'd run, but when I looked outside, the highway was gone. The world had flattened into gray nothing. No sky, no ground, just fog and faint red light. The figure stopped beside my door. Up close, I could see the melted plastic of the vest, the name patch half burned away. "Harlan," he looked up. His face was blackened, half bone, half skin. But the eyes, those were mine. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He pressed one hand to the glass. His mouth moved, and for a second, there was no sound. Then the CB hissed, and his voice came through it, perfectly clear. "This channel's where we end up when no one remembers to close it." "What are you talking about?" I choked. "You called for help that night." "Channel 23. Nobody answered. The signal never shut off." The air in the cab filled with that burning smell, diesel and plastic and scorched fabric. My skin prickled. The ghost, the other me, lowered his hand. The fog brightened around him until it glowed white. "You can drive forever and never make it past this mile," he said. "Or you can answer." "Answer what?" He tilted his head. "The last call." The CB clicked on its own. "Channel 23. Static clearing." Then a familiar voice, mine, but broken, panicked, from years ago. "Mayday, mayday, rig overturned on 303. Anyone please, somebody respond." I remembered it now. The smoke, the flames, the radio melting against my hand as I screamed for help that never came. The night I died. The fog outside pulsed like a heartbeat. My double took a step back, fading into the glow. "Now you remember." The CB went quiet. Then another voice, female, gentle, unfamiliar. "Breaker 19. Eastbound Harlan. You awake?" Not mocking, not eerie, just human. For a moment, I thought it was another trap. Then I realized the fog was thinning. The hum of my engine returned, faint at first, then steady, outside. Dawn light bled through the horizon. The CB crackled one more time. "Welcome back." I blinked, and the channel display snapped back to 19. The number 23 vanished. The road stretched clean and clear ahead. I didn't see the figure again. Not in the mirrors, not in the fog behind me. Just the faint smell of smoke that lingered until I hit Amarillo. That morning, I checked my logbook. Every page after July 16, 2019, was blank. I started writing again, anyway. First line: "If I forget, tune to Channel 23. Someone's always listening." The night I stopped there, the rain hadn't let up for 3 hours straight. Highway 62 was nothing but wet, black ribbon under my headlights, and my wipers were struggling to keep up. The nearest town was 40 miles behind me, and my fuel gauge hovered just above empty. That's the only reason I pulled over when I saw the flicker of neon through the trees, a half-broken sign glowing pale red. County Line Gas and Market. I don't remember ever seeing it before. And I'd driven that stretch dozens of times. The place looked like it had been stranded there since the 70s. A single island with 2 rusted pumps, one flickering overhead light, and a tiny building with rain-streaked windows. The neon buzzed so loud I could hear it over the rain. I parked beside the far pump, killed the engine, and just sat there for a minute. The rain was relentless, hammering the windshield like gravel. Something about the place felt wrong. Not threatening, just off. Like I was looking at a photograph that had been developed slightly out of focus. I grabbed my jacket and stepped out. The air was thick with the smell of wet asphalt and old gasoline. The rain soaked through my sleeves in seconds. When I lifted the pump handle, nothing happened. No click, no hum, no smell of fuel. Just silence. Great, I muttered, setting it back. That's when I noticed the door to the market was open just an inch. Light spilled through the crack, yellow and warm, like from old tungsten bulbs. I stepped inside. A bell above the door gave a weak jingle, muffled by the rain. The place was small. 3 aisles, a counter, an old soda fridge humming in the corner. It smelled like dust and motor oil. Behind the counter sat a man in a faded blue work shirt, head down, scribbling in a notebook. His name tag said, "Da Cole." "Evening," I said, shaking the rain from my jacket. "Any chance your pumps are working?" He looked up slowly, like I'd startled him out of a dream. His eyes were gray, dull, but sharp around the edges. "They ain't been working right since the storm," he said. His voice was low, scratchy. "You from around here?" "No, just passing through." "Need enough to make it to Ashbury?" He nodded like that meant something heavy. "That's over the line." I frowned. "County line?" He gave a tight smile. "Something like that." For a second, neither of us spoke. The rain filled the silence. Then he pushed a small, rusty can across the counter. "I can spot you a gallon or two. Enough to get where you're going." I pulled out my wallet. "What do I owe you?" He waved me off. "You pay on the way back." That line stuck in my head. On the way back, I took the can, thanked him, and headed for the door. But just before I stepped out, he said, "Hey driver." I turned. He pointed toward the window. "Stay on the main road after you cross. Don't take the left turn. No matter what you see." The way he said it, calm, certain, made my stomach twist. I nodded like it was no big deal and left. The rain let up a little by the time I poured the gas into the tank. The smell was strong, real, familiar. I got in the cab, started the engine, and rolled out. The road ahead was slick and dark. A green sign passed in my headlights, "Now leaving Briggs County." A few seconds later, "Welcome to Ashbury County." That was when the radio cut out. No music, no static. Just dead air. Then faintly through the speakers, a voice. Low, drawn out. Hard to tell if it was a man or a woman. "Turn left." I froze, staring at the dashboard. The voice came again, clearer this time. "Turn left at the marker." My GPS was off. I hadn't even turned it on. I told myself it was just cross-frequency interference. Truckers sometimes picked up local transmissions, especially in bad weather. But as I drove, my headlights swept across something on the shoulder that made my blood run cold. A marker post. Bright yellow. And just behind it, a narrow dirt road cutting left into the trees. Exactly like the voice had said. The steering wheel felt heavy in my hands. I didn't want to stop. Didn't even want to look. But curiosity is a hell of a thing. I slowed down, glanced down the road. No lights. Just a thin trail swallowed by darkness. Then, from somewhere deep in the trees, I thought I saw movement. A flicker of something pale. And I heard it, faint but clear over the rain. "Help me." A woman's voice. I slammed on the brakes. My headlights caught nothing but wet bark and fog. Every rational part of my brain told me not to move. That this was how people disappeared. But I couldn't shake the image. Someone lost, hurt, maybe stranded in the storm. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. The rain was colder now, sharper, almost metallic against my skin. The dirt road was slick and narrow, cutting through trees that leaned close on both sides. My beam barely reached 10 feet ahead. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. Just rain. Then, closer this time, please. "Help me." It came from ahead, trembling, desperate. I took a few cautious steps forward, scanning the trees. My boots sank into mud. The smell of rot grew stronger. 100 feet in, I found a single shoe half buried in the mud. Then, A few yards beyond that, a scarf tangled in the branches. Hello? No answer. Just the sound of water dripping from leaves. I turned back toward the highway, or where I thought the highway was. The darkness behind me was solid now, thicker than it should have been. That's when the flashlight flickered. Once, twice. Then I heard it, breathing, close, too close. I swung the light around. A woman stood 5 feet from me, hair plastered to her face with rain, wearing a dress so soaked it clung to her skin. Her eyes were wide and glassy. Are you okay? I asked, voice shaking. She didn't answer, just stared at me. I stepped forward. Ma'am, are you hurt? Her head tilted slightly. You shouldn't have stopped. Her voice was the same one I'd heard through the radio. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping the flashlight. The beam swung across the trees, and that's when I saw them. Figures. Dozens of them. Standing between the trunks, motionless, watching. Men, women, kids, all soaked to the bone. Faces pale and blank. The woman took another step forward, water dripping from her hands. It always rains when someone new crosses the line, she said softly. Keeps the road clean. I turned and ran. My boots slipped, mud spraying behind me. The light swung wild, catching glimpses of faces, open mouths, white eyes, hands reaching from the dark. When I burst back onto the asphalt, the road was empty. My truck's headlights cut through the rain like nothing had happened. I climbed in, slammed the door, and hit the gas so hard the tires screamed out in the rearview mirror. The dirt road was gone. Just trees and darkness. The radio crackled once before coming back to life. Soft music, country. Then the same calm voice I'd heard at the gas station. Achko. Told you not to take that turn. I almost drove off the road. What the hell is happening? I shouted. Who are those people? Static. Then his voice again, quieter. Don't stop again tonight. Not till you hit the next county. The line went dead. I drove for miles before the rain finally stopped. When I checked the fuel gauge, it hadn't moved. The needle still sat above empty, same as before. And when I glanced in the side mirror, for just a second, I saw someone sitting in the passenger seat. A woman with wet hair, staring straight ahead. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I kept driving until the sun began to crawl over the hills, lighting the road in a pale orange haze. Every time I blinked, I thought I saw her again, the soaked woman with the hollow eyes, sitting there in the passenger seat, silent, watching the road ahead. But every time I turned to look, there was nothing. Just my jacket and the empty seatbelt swaying slightly from the bumps in the road. By the time I reached Ashbury, my hands were trembling from too much caffeine and not enough rest. I found a diner near the highway and parked out back, still shaking. I needed noise, people, anything to remind me I was back in the world. Inside, the place smelled like bacon grease and burnt coffee. A waitress with tired eyes poured me a cup before I could even ask. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, half smiling, something like that. When she walked away, I grabbed my phone. No service. Not a single bar. Even Wi-Fi wouldn't connect. Just searching. Across the top of the screen, I looked out the window. The road curved east toward the county border. The rain clouds still hovered there, thick and gray, like the storm hadn't moved at all. Something inside me, maybe guilt, maybe fear, told me I couldn't just keep driving. Not after what I'd seen. That gas station shouldn't have been there. Those people, they shouldn't have been real. And yet, I still had that smell of wet earth in my nose. Still saw the faces in the trees when I blinked. So I made a decision. I'd go back. I needed to see it in daylight, to prove to myself it was just some freak storm hallucination, some trick of the dark. It was late afternoon when I crossed back toward Briggs County. The clouds thickened again, as if waiting for me. The air turned heavy, humid. By the time I reached the curve where I'd seen the dirt road, The rain had started again, slow, steady. I drove past it once, scanning the shoulder. No marker post. No road. Just endless pines and wet asphalt. But when I slowed and glanced in the side mirror, I caught it again, a flash of yellow behind me. The marker. Only visible when I wasn't looking straight at it. My stomach dropped. Drove another mile before I saw the gas station. Same broken neon sign buzzing against the rain. Same single light above the pumps. Only now, the windows were dark. The door hung slightly open. I pulled in slowly, engine rumbling. The pumps looked rustier than before. The paint on the sign had peeled. Even the lettering was different. County Line Market instead of Gas and Market. I killed the engine and stepped out. The rain pattered soft against the hood. Steady and rhythmic. Inside. The air was colder than before. The bell above the door didn't ring. H. Cole? I called out. Silenced. I walked to the counter. The notebook was still there, pages damp and curling. I flipped it open. The writing was smeared, but I could still make out bits of it. Keep them on the road. Never let them stop. If they cross twice, they stay. My heart thud. Behind the counter, a door stood ajar. I pushed it open. The back room was small, lit by a single hanging bulb that swayed slightly. Shelves lined the walls, filled with old oil cans, boxes of spark plugs, and jars full of rusted keys. And on the far wall, nailed up in neat rows, were driver's licenses, dozens of them, each one caked in grime and yellowed with age. Some names I didn't recognize, but others made my blood go cold. J. Morris, expired 1998. K. Alvarez, expired 2012. And at the end of the row, H. Cole, expired 1985. My pulse roared in my ears. Something shifted in the dark corner behind the shelves. A faint scrape of metal on concrete. I raised my flashlight. A man stood there, or what was left of one. His skin was pale, stretched thin. His work shirt was soaked and torn. The same name stitched above the pocket. H. Cole. You came back, he rasped. My throat tightened. What is this place? He stepped closer, limping slightly. His eyes looked almost human again under the flickering bulb. County Line's a threshold, he said softly. Most people pass through and never feel it. But sometimes the storm catches you wrong. You see what's underneath. Underneath what? The road, he whispered. This whole stretch, it feeds on motion. Keeps the living moving. Keeps the lost from crossing over. That's my job. Was anyway. His gaze drifted to the notebook on the counter. If you stop too long, it notices. And once it sees you, he looked up, eyes glassy. You can't leave. I took a step back, shaking my head. I don't believe this. You already do, he said. Or you wouldn't have come back. I turned for the door, but the sound of rain had changed, sharper now, more distant. When I stepped outside, the pumps were gone. The road too, just mud and endless gray water stretching in all directions. H. Cole. I shouted. What is this? His voice came from behind me, calm and almost kind, the in-between. It pulls in everything that crosses twice. I looked down. The reflection in the water wasn't mine. It was her, the soaked woman from the dirt road, staring up at me through the surface. Her lips moved soundlessly. Then the radio inside my truck crackled to life. Loud enough to make me flinch, turn left. I spun back toward the door. But the gas station was gone, only fog. Only the endless stretch of nowhere. And then, a single headlight beam cutting through it. My truck, idling, driver's door open. I climbed in fast, slamming the door. The CB was lit up, though I hadn't turned it on. Static hissed, then a voice that wasn't H. Cole's. It was mine. If you forget, stay on the main road. The steering wheel felt ice cold. My breath fogged the glass. Through the windshield, I saw a faint glow ahead, a green road sign rising through the mist. Now leaving Briggs County, I hit the gas. The wheels spun, caught, and the world lurched. For a split second, I saw all of them, the figures from the trees, the woman in the rain. H. Cole at the counter, watching from the roadside as I passed. Then the fog broke. The sky opened, blue and clean. The highway stretched straight ahead, sunlight glinting off wet asphalt. I looked down. My fuel gauge had climbed back to full. When I checked the rearview mirror, the gas station was gone. Not collapsed, not burned, just never there. I made it home that night, but nothing's been right since. Every time it rains, the static creeps back into the radio. Sometimes when I tune through the channels, I hear that voice, calm, gravelly, faint through the noise. You pay on the way back. And sometimes, when I drive past county lines at night, I see a flicker of neon far out in the trees. Red, faint, buzzing, a station that shouldn't exist. Waiting for whoever runs out of gas next. The first time I drove through Devil's Backbone, I promised myself I'd never do it again. It's not a name you forget, the kind of highway that feels wrong even before you see it. The maps list it as Route 47, a stretch of two-lane asphalt curling like a spine through the West Virginia mountains. No shoulders, no guardrails, just drop-offs and fog so thick you can taste it. I only took the job because the dispatcher said it'd shave 4 hours off my route to Knoxville. Road's got a bad rep, he said over the phone. But it's all ghost stories, man. You'll be fine. Right. By the time I hit the entrance sign, Devil's Backbone Summit 12 miles, the sun had already set. My fuel gauge was fine, trailer sealed tight, radio humming soft country static, but something in me tightened. Like crossing an invisible line, the first few miles were nothing but switchbacks and trees pressing close enough to scrape the mirrors. The road dipped and twisted like it had a pulse. Then the fog rolled in. Not a gentle mist, a living wall. My high beams just bounced back white. I dropped my speed to 15, hands locked on the wheel. Every sound in the cab grew louder, the hum of the engine, the rattle of loose tools, my breath. Then the CB hissed, "Breaker 19. You hearing me, southbound?" The voice came through low and clear. I pressed the mic. "Yeah, I got you." "Go ahead. You on the backbone?" "Yeah, you local?" A pause. "Used to be." I frowned. "Used to be?" "Keep to the middle when you hit mile 7. Bridge don't hold to the right side no more." Before I could ask anything else, the channel went dead. The CB stayed silent for the next 10 minutes. But my eyes kept darting to the mile markers. 3, 4, 5. When I reached 7, I slowed. The fog had thickened to pure white, the road invisible except for a faint shine of wet pavement. Then my headlights caught it, the bridge. Old, narrow, the kind of wooden planks that looked ready to give. The metal railing on the right side was twisted, half missing. I stayed dead center, heart hammering. Every creak of the tires sounded like the road giving way. Halfway across, something moved in the fog ahead. At first, I thought it was an animal, deer maybe. But then it stood up. A man, wearing a reflective vest. Hand raised, I slammed the brakes. The trailer groaned behind me. The man stepped closer, slow. He stopped in the headlights, rain dripping from the brim of his cap. Roads closed up ahead. He called out, voice muffled by fog. I leaned out the window. "What happened?" He shook his head. "Rockslide. You'll need to turn back." I glanced around. No flashing lights, no cones, no other vehicles. "You a road worker?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, something like that. The fog swirled, and for a second I caught his face in the light, pale, grayish, like he hadn't seen the sun in years. "Where's your truck?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Left it back at the bridge. Then he lifted his arm and pointed behind me. You should go. A chill slid down my neck. What's your name, man? He turned slowly toward the guardrail, gaze fixed on the fog. Ain't got one that matters anymore. And then he stepped off the side, just gone. No sound, no scream. Like he'd melted into the mist. I slammed the rig into park, jumped out, flashlight cutting through the white. Hey, I shouted. You okay? Nothing. When I looked down, there were footprints leading to the edge, then stopping midder. No sign of a fall, no broken railing. Just empty fog. My stomach twisted. I climbed back in, slammed the door, and floored it. The CB crackled alive as soon as I cleared the bridge. Told you to keep center. It was the same voice. Calm, matter of fact. My throat tightened. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Just keep your eyes on the mile markers. And whatever you do, don't stop at 11. The line went dead. I kept driving, counting under my breath like a prayer. 8, 9, 10. At mile 11. The fog broke for a second, and that's when I saw it. A wreck. An 18-wheeler, same make as mine, crushed against the rock face. The trailer was torn open, the cab on its side. My light swept across the lettering, Rexford Logistics. My company, the same one I was driving for. And on the door, my name, Harlan Briggs. I sat there staring at my own name printed across the crushed cab door. Harlan Briggs. The paint gleamed wet under my headlights. Same color rig, same company logo, same trailer number. For a second, I thought maybe dispatch had sent another driver using the same truck ID. But when I got out, flashlight shaking in my hand, the truth hit hard. The front windshield was shattered inward. The steering wheel bent against the dash. And in the driver's seat was a body, slumped forward, seatbelt torn. The skin pale and waxy, blood dried dark around the collar. Even through the distortion of rain and glass, I recognized the jacket. It was mine. I stumbled backward, breath catching in my throat. The air smelled like antifreeze and burnt rubber. Every drop of rain on my skin felt too cold, too sharp. Then the CB hissed again from inside my cab. Told you not to stop. I spun toward my truck. The headlights flickered once, like the power grid was surging. The fog around me pulsed in and out, light breathing. Who are you? I shouted. What is this? Static swallowed my words. Then the voice came again, low and almost gentle. You didn't make it across the bridge last time. I backed toward the trailer, shaking my head. That's not possible. I'm right here. That's what we all said. A shape stepped through the fog behind the wreck. The man from the bridge. His vest hung in tatters, soaked through. His eyes looked almost sorry. I raised my flashlight. You're dead. He smiled weakly. Yeah, been a while now. What is this place? Devil's Backbone's a loop, he said. Every driver who crashes here runs it again. Tries to make it out. Most don't realize they already died trying. I could barely breathe. So he nodded. You saw your own rig. You already know. The fog thickened between us, rolling like smoke. Somewhere deeper down the road, an engine started, a low, rumbling growl echoing off the rock walls. Another set of headlights cut through the mist, high beams glaring white. A truck, same model as mine, barreling straight toward us. The man stepped aside. That's the next one. I yelled, waving my arms. Hey, stop! But the rig never slowed. It tore past, wind rocking me on my heels. In the blur of its cab lights, I caught a glimpse of the driver's face. It was me, younger maybe, cleaner shaven, eyes locked forward in determination. The man in the vest put a hand on my shoulder. You'll try again when the fog resets. I turned on him. Reset? I can't stay here. There has to be a way out. He pointed toward the mountain ridge behind the road. When you get to mile 12, don't follow the turn. Floor it straight ahead. Through the fog. That'll take me off the cliff. Exactly. The fog pulsed again, thicker now, humming with some low frequency I could feel in my teeth. You either drive until the road eats you, he said softly, or you jump before it does. Then he stepped backward, fading into the mist. I ran for my truck. The headlights flickered weakly as I climbed in, slamming the door. The cab reeked of diesel and fear. The CB buzzed again. Breaker 19. You hearing me? I grabbed the mic. Yeah, you gonna try? Try what? To break the loop. My voice shook. What happens if I don't? You keep driving the same 12 miles till the end of time. Outside. The fog was already closing in, swallowing the wreck, the bridge. Everything. I took a deep breath, dropped the gear into drive, and floored it. The road twisted hard right, mile 12, but I didn't follow. I held the wheel straight, heart pounding, speed climbing. The fog thinned for half a heartbeat. Enough to see the edge. And beyond it, a sea of white. No bottom. No sky. The wheels screamed as the rig hit the guardrail and launched. Everything went silent. When I woke, I was lying in grass. The sun was rising behind the hills. The air was clean, bright, unreal. My truck sat 20 yards away in a meadow, spotless, no damage. The fog was gone. The mountain road was nowhere to be seen, just open fields and birds calling in the distance. I stood slowly, disoriented. My phone buzzed in my pocket for the first time in hours. One new voicemail. I played it. This is dispatch. You were supposed to check in 3 days ago. If you get this, call us back. They found a wreck on Devil's Backbone last night. Trailers burned. No sign of the driver. The message ended. I looked back at my truck. The door swung open on its own, creaking gently in the breeze. Inside, the CB was still on. Channel 19. A man's voice came through, quiet but steady. Bridge still don't hold on the right side. Stay center. I stared at the mic. My hand moved on its own, picking it up. My voice came out hoarse, almost unrecognizable. Thanks for the heads up. Static filled the cab for a moment. Then the voice said, softer this time, you'll see what I mean. The line went dead. I looked out across the field, where the fog was beginning to rise again, slow and steady. Curling through the grass like smoke. It rolled toward the truck, wrapping around the tires, the mirrors, the hood. When I blinked, the meadow was gone. The road was back. The sign loomed ahead. Devil's Backbone Summit, 12 miles. And on the CB, my own voice whispered, Breaker 19 southbound. You hearing me? The call came at 2:13 a.m., when the road was nothing but darkness and the hum of my tires. I just cleared a way station outside Missouri, sipping cold coffee from a cracked thermos when the dispatch line lit up on the dash. The screen read, Dispatch, private line. That was weird. Dispatch never used private lines. I pressed the mic. Yeah, this is Briggs. Go ahead. There was a pause. Static hissed softly, like a breath drawn too close to the receiver. Then, Harlan. The voice was low. Too low, not my dispatcher. Not even close. Who's this? I asked. You didn't answer earlier. Answer what? The static deepened, almost like a hum under the words. The recall notice. All units were supposed to report back to the terminal. I frowned. That's not right. I just got my assignment last night. Memphis run. Everything cleared. Another pause. Then, no, you're not on the Memphis run. You were supposed to come home. Something in my stomach twisted. Look, whoever this is, you've got the wrong truck. Dispatch don't sound like you. The line went dead. For a long minute, I just drove in silence, staring at the empty highway. No taillights, no oncoming cars, Nothing but trees flashing in and out of the high beams. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again 30 seconds later. Same number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? Nothing. Then faint breathing. Listen, if this is some kind of prank, you shouldn't have left without checking in. My chest tightened. Same voice. Same tone. I hung up fast. Turned the phone off. That's when the radio came alive. Breaker 19 southbound, you hearing me? Relief hit me for a second. Another trucker. I grabbed the mic. Yeah, I got you. You hear anyone messing with the dispatch lines tonight? Copy that, the voice said, calm, slow. You alone out there? Yeah, why? Just making sure. It's been a quiet night. Something about his voice felt off, too deliberate, too measured. But I wanted someone to talk to, anyone, just to drown out the static in my head. Where you running? I asked, same as you. That line hit like a gut punch. What's that supposed to mean? Memphis run, right? I stared at the radio. Who is this? Don't matter. Just keep your eyes open when you hit mile marker 62. You'll see the truck. What truck? Yours. Static swallowed the rest. By the time I hit marker 62, my nerves were shot. The road had narrowed into a 2-lane stretch bordered by woods so dense they swallowed the moonlight. The fog rolled in low and thick. My wipers squeaked uselessly against the glass. Then I saw it. Faint red taillights ahead, parked on the shoulder. Same model rig as mine. Same company logo, Rexford Logistics. The trailer door was open. The hazard lights blinked slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I slowed down, squinting through the fog. Hey, I called through the open window. You need help? No movement. The cab door was open too. Something about it made my skin crawl, like the road itself was holding its breath. I pulled ahead just enough for my headlights to catch the inside of the trailer. Empty. No pallets. No straps. Just bare metal walls. That's when my own CB lit up again. You found it, didn't you? I grabbed the mic hard. If this is a joke, you're done. I'm calling State Patrol right now. They already tried. The voice was closer now. No static, no interference. Like whoever it was stood right outside my window. I glanced to the left, nothing but fog. To the right, trees swaying slow in the wind. My pulse pounded so loud, I could barely hear myself breathe. You left the door open, the voice said. What door? Yours. A cold breeze hit the back of my neck. I turned. The passenger side door of my cab, the one I knew I'd shut, was hanging wide open. Rain mist blew in, dampening the seat. I slammed the brakes, jumped out, circled the truck with the flashlight. Nobody there. Just wet asphalt and silence. Then I looked. Down. Footprints. Bare. Leading away from the truck and into the woods. Every instinct screamed get back inside, so I did. Locked both doors, turned every light on. When I checked the rearview mirror, the other truck was gone. No taillights, no trailer, no tire tracks. Just fog. I drove until sunrise before stopping at a rest area near the state line. The parking lot was half empty, just a few other rigs idling with their drivers asleep inside. For a few blessed minutes, the world felt normal again. Coffee smell, the distant hum of vending machines, the crunch of gravel under boots. Inside the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, staring at the dark circles under my eyes. That's when my phone buzzed again. Dispatch 3 missed calls. Relief. Actual relief this time. I called back immediately. It rang twice before a voice answered. My real dispatcher, Tony. Briggs. Jesus, man, where the hell you been? My throat tightened. Tony, someone's been calling me. Using your line. Said I was supposed to come home. He went quiet. Come home? Yeah, said there was a recall or something. Another pause. Then, in a strange, careful tone, "When did you hear this?" "Last night. Around 2. He exhaled hard. "Briggs, that's not possible. What are you talking about?" "I got your call at 2:13, he said. "You told me you were coming back. Sounded fine, just tired. Said you were heading east again. Said you'd talk when you made it in. I never called you. I got it on tape, man. Same line you're on now." My blood went cold. "You recorded it?" "Standard procedure. You want me to play it?" Before I could answer, there was a faint click. Then static dot, then my own voice came through the receiver. "Yeah, Tony, heading back now. Had a problem with the load. Might be a while. Gotta stop by mile 62 first." The recording ended. I didn't speak. Couldn't. Tony said my name again, voice tight. "You good, Briggs?" But I was staring at my reflection in the mirror. And for just a second, one heartbeat-long second, the reflection didn't move when I did. I dropped the phone. It clattered against the sink, Tony's voice still spilling out of the speaker. "Briggs? You there? Say something, man." But all I could do was stare at the mirror. At the reflection that wasn't me anymore. It looked right, same stubble, same dark circles, same coffee-stained shirt, but something was off. The eyes. They were fixed on me, unblinking. A half-second delayed like an old video feed. And then it smiled. I stumbled back, slamming into the stall door. My hand shot for the phone, but the line was dead. Static poured through the speaker like a whispering crowd. And somewhere underneath it, I heard my own voice again, faint, muffled, layered over itself. "You shouldn't have left without checking in." I bolted out of the bathroom and back toward the truck, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The morning air was cold and sour, thick with diesel fumes. I climbed into the cab, slammed the locks, and sat there shaking. The clock on the dash blinked 2:13 a.m. That wasn't right. It was daylight outside. I rubbed my eyes, checked my watch. Same thing. 2:13 a.m. Like the night hadn't moved at all. The phone buzzed again. "Dispatch, private line." I didn't answer, but the CB crackled to life. "Briggs, you copy?" It was Tony's voice. My real dispatcher this time. I grabbed the mic fast. "Tony, you gotta help me, man. Something's wrong. I'm losing time or something." He sounded strained, confused. "Where are you?" "I don't know. I stopped at the state rest area near mile 71, but..." "Briggs," he cut in, his voice shaking now, "you didn't stop anywhere. You didn't check in. You never made it past Missouri." My mouth went dry. "What are you talking about?" "We got State Patrol looking for you. They found your trailer parked on the shoulder. Engine cold. Door open. You weren't inside." I froze. The world outside the windshield shimmered faintly, like heat ripples on asphalt. The parking lot. The trees. Even the other trucks, just sitting too still. Like props on a set. "Tony," I whispered. "I'm looking at my rig right now. Briggs, listen to me." His voice cut out. Silence. Then a different voice came through. Lower, slower. "You can hang up now." I dropped the mic like it burned. The world outside the cab flickered. For half a second, everything went dark. No light, no sound, just a pressure, like being underwater. And then the radio turned itself on. Same channel. Same voice as the first call. "You shouldn't have gone back to the truck. Who are you?" I snapped. "What do you want from me?" "You called us." "No, I didn't." "At 2:13 a.m. you did. You said you were ready." My chest tightened. Ready for what? The static rose until it sounded like breathing. To come home. I don't remember leaving the rest stop. One minute I was gripping the wheel. The next I was miles down the highway. Fog swallowing the road again. The GPS was dead. Just a blank blue grid. The mile markers were gone. The only light came from my own dashboard and the occasional flicker of lightning. Deep inside the clouds, and through it all, the radio stayed alive. "Breaker 19, you hearing me?" It was me, my own voice. "You missed the recall, didn't you?" I grabbed the mic. "Stop it. Whatever this is, just stop." Too late for that. Something moved in the passenger seat. A phone, my phone. Even though I'd thrown it into the glove box, lit up again. The same time on the screen, 213A.M. It started to ring. I stared at it. Every nerve in my body screaming not to touch it. It rang 3 times, 4. Then it answered itself. A voice came through the truck speakers. Soft and deliberate. "You've been rerouted." "Rerouted where?" "Home base." "I don't have a home base." I shouted. "You've got the wrong driver." "No, we don't." The fog outside the windshield began to glow, faint red, like brake lights. And slowly, shapes started to appear in the mist. Trucks, dozens of them. Parked on both sides of the road, engines off, trailers sealed, every single one with the same company logo. Rexford Logistics. Their hazard lights blinked in perfect unison. I slowed to a crawl, staring at the endless line of rigs stretching into the fog. Then, one by one, the headlights started turning on, all of them, and through the CB, dozens of voices began to speak at once. My own voice, over and over. "Dispatch, this is Briggs, checking in. Copy that, Tony. Heading east now. Everything's fine. Just tired. Everything's fine. Just tired. Everything's fine." I slammed the mic down and floored it. Tires screamed. The fog swallowed the trucks behind me. I drove blind, faster than I ever should have, until the world outside went white, and then silence again. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting in an office chair. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The smell of burnt coffee and paper hung in the air. Rows of cubicles stretched out in every direction. Phones ringing softly. Voices murmuring, and on every monitor, my truck's dashcam feed. The same footage looping. Me driving, staring dead ahead, whispering something I couldn't hear. A figure stood beside me. A man in a dispatcher's uniform. The badge on his chest read Rexford Control Division. He smiled faintly. "Welcome back, Harlan." My throat felt like sandpaper. "Where am I?" "You're in dispatch." I looked around. Faces behind screens, all identical, all pale. Some with headsets, some with hands hovering over switches. Every single one of them had my face. The man leaned down beside me. "You've done your part. It's your turn now." He gestured to the console in front of me, a microphone, a headset. A digital clock blinking 2:13 a.m. static filled the room. Steady and rhythmic. "Call the next one," he said. My hand trembled as it hovered over the switch. "I don't understand." He smiled again. "You will." And in my head, or maybe through the walls, I heard engines start up. One by one, echoing through the dark. They say when a driver vanishes on the road, his call log stays frozen at the same minute he disappeared. Dispatch records his voice. The truck's GPS locks in a loop, never updating. But someone always answers that last call. That's their job now. And I guess it's mine too, because the headset's still on my ears. The clock hasn't moved, and the line just lit up again. "Dispatch call, incoming, private line." I clicked the mic. My voice low, automatic, practiced. "Breaker 19, you hearing me southbound?" I knew something was wrong the second I pulled off the interstate. The sign said, "Last stop fuel and diner, open 24 hours. But I'd driven this route for years. There wasn't supposed to be any truck stop between exit 142 and the bridge at Mill Creek. Just forest. Dark and endless. Still, my tank was low and I'd been awake 19 hours straight. The road looked like it was unraveling in front of me. So when that neon glow flickered through the fog, I took the exit. The ramp curved down into a gravel lot that looked decades old. Potholes full of rainwater, gas pumps with faded decals. A diner squatting in the middle, like a relic from the 70s. But what hit me hardest was the silence. Even with half a dozen semis parked out front, there wasn't a sound. No engines idling, no footsteps, no voices. Just the soft ticking of my cooling engine and the faint hum of the diner's flickering sign. I cut the ignition and sat there for a second, staring at the building. The windows glowed faint orange, but no silhouettes moved behind them. When I stepped out, the air smelled like old oil and wet dirt. Evening, a voice said behind me. I turned fast. A man stood beside the next rig over, tall, thin, wearing a reflective jacket that hung loose on his frame. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Didn't think anyone else was out this late, I said. He nodded slowly. Not many make it this far anymore. I laughed awkwardly. Yeah, fuel price'll do that. His eyes flicked toward my trailer. You delivering? Yeah, dry goods to Nashville. He stared for a beat too long and said, better get a bite before you head out. Food's fresh tonight. I glanced at the diner. They got someone working in there. He smiled again, wider this time. Always do. Then he turned and walked toward the far end of the lot, vanishing into the fog between the parked rigs. I stood there a moment longer, unease crawling up my spine. The diner's neon buzzed faintly, EATS, coffee, PIE, one of the letters sputtering in and out. I headed inside. The bell above the door jingled. But no one looked up. There were half a dozen customers, truckers, judging by the hats and jackets, sitting at the counter and booths. Every single one of them stared straight ahead, motionless, coffee cups in hand. The air was thick with grease and something metallic underneath it, like rust or blood. A woman in a pink uniform stood behind the counter, back turned. She was humming to herself, a slow, tuneless sound. Evening, I said, sliding into a stool. She didn't turn, just kept humming. Coffee if you got it. She nodded once, poured a cup, and set it in front of me without looking. Her hand was pale, thin, veins standing out like blue ropes. The coffee was cold. I took a sip anyway. It tasted like dirt and burnt sugar. You folks open all night? I asked. She finally turned around. Her eyes were gray, not the color, but the texture. Like ash. Her smile was too wide, too still. Always open, she said. Something about her face didn't sit right, like it had been practiced too many times. I looked down at the counter, trying to steady myself. That's when I noticed the plate beside the man next to me. A burger, untouched, covered in dust. The fries were gray, stiff. He didn't blink, didn't breathe, just sat there, hand on his coffee cup. I reached over and tapped the counter. Hey buddy, you okay? No response. That's when I saw the flies. Dozens of them, crawling lazy circles across his sleeve, his face, his open mouth. I stumbled back, knocking the stool over. Jesus Christ! The woman behind the counter tilted her head, still smiling. Something wrong with your food? I ran for the door. When I looked back, every single person in the diner had turned to face me. Not moved, turned. All at once. Eyes gray and empty. The woman's voice floated after me, calm and flat. You'll get used to it, driver. They all do. I burst out into the lot. The fog was thicker now, almost solid. The rigs just shadows with dull chrome gleams. I sprinted to my truck, fumbling for the keys, heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. When I looked up, someone was sitting in my driver's seat, a man back turned. Hands on the wheel. My flashlight caught the back of his head. Same hat, same jacket. My jacket. He turned. Slow. It was me. Dead eyes. Gray skin. He smiled, teeth too white in the dark. You were late, he said. Then he vanished. Not disappeared, not faded, just gone. Like the air itself swallowed him, I yanked the door open. The cab was empty. The radio flicked on by itself. A voice whispering through static. Last stop fuel and diner, 24 hours. Always open. The fog around the truck shifted, not rolling but moving. Like it was circling. That's when I saw them dot figures, half seen through the mist. Some in uniforms, some in torn jackets, all standing perfectly still beside their rigs, dot watching dot, and every face looked wrong, familiar but off. Eyes gray, smiles faint and knowing. I slammed the truck into reverse and tore out of the lot. Tires spitting gravel dot in the mirror. The diner's neon sign flickered one last time, last stop, before the fog swallowed it whole. I didn't stop until I hit the main highway again. The GPS reconnected. Blinking like it was catching its breath. I checked the map. No. Exit. No diner. Just 30 miles of unbroken forest. I pulled over, hands shaking, trying to calm down. My phone buzzed. Dispatch, where are you? I typed back fast. Took a wrong turn. Heading back, the reply came instantly. Don't stop again. Not there. I froze. What do you mean not there? I typed. No answer. Then my radio came alive. Breaker 19 southbound. You made it out? It was the man from the lot, the one with the reflective jacket. I grabbed the mic. Who the hell are you? What was that place? Just keep driving, he said softly. Don't look in the mirrors. What? They only follow if you look. The line went dead. The road stretched ahead, endless and empty. Fog clinging to the trees on both sides. I glanced once, just once, into the side mirror, and saw headlights, dozens of them, everyone blinking in sync. Red taillights pulsing slow like a heartbeat, following me. I drove until the road stopped making sense. The mile markers disappeared. The trees blurred together, the same shapes repeating over and over like a looping video. Every few minutes I'd swear I passed the same dead raccoon on the shoulder, the same bent road sign, the same rusted guardrail, but the headlights behind me never changed. They kept their distance, 40, maybe 50 yards back, moving perfectly in sync. Not close enough to threaten, but close enough to remind me I wasn't alone. After an hour, the fuel light came on. I should have been terrified. But exhaustion had replaced fear with something worse, numbness. I hadn't slept in 30 hours. My hands trembled on the wheel. I checked my GPS again. Still blank. No roads, no exits, just a blue dot floating in nothing. And then the radio clicked. You'll run out before sunrise. I didn't answer. Pull in when you see the sign. My throat was dry. Not happening. You always say that. That stopped me cold. What do you mean always? The line went quiet. Then, faintly, the hum of a diner sign buzzing through static. We keep a spot for you. Harlan. I threw the mic onto the floor and kept driving. Sometime near dawn. The fog started to thin. Through the gray I saw an overpass up ahead. Cracked concrete. Graffiti faded with age. Finally, a landmark I recognized. The bridge at Mill Creek. If I could make it across, I'd be back on the main interstate. But as I approached, my stomach dropped. Beneath the bridge stood a sign. Fresh paint. Bright neon. Last stop fuel and diner. Open 24 Horsey slammed the brakes. The truck skidded sideways, gravel spraying. The diner sat at the end of a short access road. Lights glowing warm and soft through the fog. Same building. Same flickering sign. It had followed me. I threw the truck in reverse, heart racing, but the road behind me was gone. Just fog, thick and endless. And through the windshield, I saw movement. People. Shapes walking out from the diner doors. Men and women in trucker jackets, uniforms, reflective vests, all gray-eyed. All smiling. They didn't rush me. They just started walking, slow and steady, spreading out to form a circle around the rig. The radio crackled. You can't keep running, Harlan. I recognized the voice now. The man in the reflective jacket. The one I'd spoken to the first night. It's easier if you stop fighting it. I slammed the mic button. What are you? What do you want? Same thing we all wanted. Rest. The figures were closer now, fog swirling around them. I could see their faces, some young, some old, all pale and hollow. A few I recognized from the diner. One or two looked almost like me. You died out there, Harlan, the voice said softly. Do you really think anyone drives this road and lives to tell it? No, I whispered. No, I made it out. But even as I said it, memory hit me hard. The long curve before Mill Creek, the blinding fog, the deer that darted out too fast to brake, the sound of the impact, the trailer jackknifing, the impossible stillness afterward. The cold, the silence. You remember now, the voice said. I pressed the pedal, desperate, engine roaring. The truck lurched forward, but the road didn't move. The wheels spun against nothing. The speedometer frozen at 0. The figures stopped a few feet from the hood. The man in the reflective jacket stepped forward, smiling sadly. Every driver finds their way here eventually. It's what keeps the road fed. I'm not staying. You don't have a choice. He reached out a hand toward the windshield, and the glass fogged beneath his touch. A perfect handprint forming on the inside, on my side. I stumbled back in the seat, gasping. No, stay away. The radio hissed. You can leave, he said, voice low, patient. But it means someone else takes your place. What? We need a driver. That's how this place stays alive. You leave, another truck comes in. That's the rule. My mind raced. Then take me. Don't drag anyone else into this. He smiled again. That's not how it works. Outside, another truck was pulling into the lot. Headlights cutting through the fog. A new rig. New paint. A driver climbed out. A woman, mid-30s maybe, rubbing her eyes, yawning. She looked just like I had 2 nights ago, tired, desperate for a stop. No, I whispered. The man turned toward her, raising his hand in a lazy wave. Told you. Always open. She smiled politely and walked toward the diner. Wait! I shouted, slamming the horn. Don't go in. But she didn't hear me. She never does. The man looked back at me through the windshield, expression calm and hollow. Drive on, Harlan. You're part of the route now. Then he was gone. All of them were. The fog collapsed inward, swallowing the diner, the trucks, everything, until it was just road again, stretching endlessly ahead. When I woke up, I was behind the wheel, sun blazing through the windshield. My coffee was still warm. For a minute, I almost convinced myself it had been a dream, until I saw the receipt on the passenger seat. Last stop fuel, and diner, 6.50 black coffee, no date. No time stamp. Just my name scrawled in red ink at the bottom. See you next time. The road ahead shimmered in the heat. Behind me, far in the distance, a neon sign flickered faintly through the haze. Open 24 hours. They say truckers pass stories down like warnings. About phantom way stations, about roads that loop forever, about voices on the CB that sound like your own, but the one that always makes the rounds. Whispered over diner coffee or muttered. Before long hauls is about the truck stop that waits for the tired ones. Ones too far gone to turn back, the ones who think they're still driving. That night, when the fog rolled back in and my fuel gauge hit empty again, I didn't fight it. The sign was there waiting. Last stop fuel and diner, open 24 hours, and this time, when I parked, the man in the reflective jacket was already holding the door for me. He smiled. That same hollow smile. Welcome home, driver. And behind him, through the diner window, I saw all the others sitting in their booths, gray-eyed, still, and waiting for the next one.